everybody, this is John Habermeyer with Synergy Builders, and this is Synergy Design Live, where I design your space right here in front of you on Facebook. I'm here with my co-host, Sarah.
Hey everyone, I'm Sarah Schmecko with Synergy, and I'd like to welcome our guest today. We have Brad and his wife Stacy with us. Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. Brad is actually a project manager here at Synergy, so we're excited to be helping a team member today as we tackle the design portion of their project. Brad and Stacy are looking to reconfigure the front part of their home, and it's interesting because I find this project to be a great example of what synergy actually means. So by definition, synergy is the interaction of two or more parts to produce a combined effect greater than the sum of their separate parts. And with that being said, Brad is fantastic at the execution and building and managing the build of a project, but maybe wouldn't be in creating the initial design itself. And then on the flip side, vice versa, the design team wouldn't be great at building their own design concepts. So
Sarah. Oh,
both,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Sarah,
No, go ahead.
what's interesting is that I think a lot of clients feel that way. And it's amazing how often we get that feedback on how some people are strong at one area and not at the other.
Exactly. And so that's where, multiple talent sets can be isolated, and when brought together, it creates something that couldn't have existed without the other part of it. So I think having Brad here today is really exciting because he's a big part of our team, and it's cool to see the collaboration between you two kind of unfold right before us.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Hey, I heard we
So
have a pretty
before
cool guest today.
Yes. And before we dive into, the project and going through the design portion, as always, we have a very important message from a very important member of our team. So this is Odin. So Odin, what fun fact do you have for us today? He says approximately 10 to 20% of US power outages are caused by squirrels. They are also responsible for about 10 to 20% of my distractions when outside on a walk. I've caught 0% of the squirrel population, but have not been discouraged in my chase to catch one someday. Back to you, John.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks, Odin. That's awesome. I always love it when Odin's here and filling us in, with some interesting facts. And I had no idea about squirrels that way, and they've always been my favorite animal. But man, well, aside from my dog, of course, but that's pretty cool. I don't know how Odin comes up with all these really interesting things to talk about.
He's just very insightful and has so much knowledge, I think, that I'm
Yeah,
really glad he has a spot here to be able to share that with everyone.
yeah, I know, right? So Brad shared a little video with us earlier this week, and I thought it was pretty cool that we can see things from his eyes, and because he comes from a really technical background, I wanted to kind of pause a little bit and explain things as he's kind of going through this video. So,
Hey, John, here's the front of my house. So you can see right here, I've got a 512 turn gable. Everything in my house is a 512. Up there is T111.
so 512, you're going to hear that term, and that's that is an industry term, and what that basically means in our industry is when we have a roof, and hopefully you can see my mouse here, that the screen's not too small, but the angle of a roof is measured by how many inches it goes up vertically for every 12 inches it goes horizontally. So a 512 in this case is the angle of the roof going up 5 and over 12.
Accent siding, everything else is 8-inch cedar. I'm going to be doing a front porch. The stoop is going to be growing a foot each way, new concrete sidewalk right here. So I'm torn between two designs. First, we leave the T111.
So T111 is a siding that has been used for a really long time, and essentially what that is a emulation of board and batten siding. And board and batten siding essentially means that, as you can kind of see here, there's vertical strips, and a board and batten is the vertical board, and then the batten covers the gap between the boards, and it's a really classy look that's been used for a really long time.
And then do two more traditional columns to more of a barrel vault ceiling with still maintaining that same 512 roof line. And then just do like a stained fir side or ceiling material underneath, or I actually pull out that T111, pull out the shutters, do a board and batten accent siding here, and then go with rough sawn cedar columns going up to more like an open design with rough sawn cedar truss work.
Wow, that's a lot of technical information there, Brad, and I appreciate you getting into the technical words of it. But I wanted to share a little bit about, potentially what some of those words were that you described. And when we look
I
at,
think for the average person, it's a lot of information, but it's great to hear that Brad knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah,
so
right.
It'd be nice to see some visuals, I think.
Yeah. So a couple different schools there, right? And basically what we're talking about is, this is Brad's existing house right here. And, we want to add some character to the front of it via a porch and covered entry. And that's a pretty common addition that people ask for, because when they're having guests over, they want to make sure that when they're coming to the front door that they're not being rained on, and it just really looks interesting. In this case right here, we have a couple of different inspirations, and this would be what he was talking about, the rough sawn kind of timber frame look, where we have different brackets in the front gable. And I even find myself talking technical language too, because it's hard to describe some of these looks without pictures or using technical language. And when he was talking about the more classic barrel vaulted ceiling, he was referring to something like this that we see in these images here. And they're two very different looks here. And I know that the two of you, that you've been talking quite a bit about that. You, Brad, you and Stacy have been talking about your differences of opinions, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are and how you when you sit and talk and think about what you want to do. How do you what are your conversations that you have?
Very opposite. I like more classic traditional. I think it fits the house more. It kind of goes with our neighborhood, is a little bit older, more of a classic style, versus Brad's kind of wanting a little more modern. So it's been a lot of driving around, looking at ranches that are similar to ours, kind of like, here's a picture, what do you think of this? What if we did a pergola? There's so many different aspects that go into it, but just we are very different with design opinions.
And that... Go ahead, Brad.
So my thought is, I like how my overhangs don't have, gonna go into another technical term here, don't have pork chop returns.
Okay.
So I know that I can get away with more of a prairie style look, with the board and battens, losing the shutters, going with a little bit more of a cleaner line, and then doing some more interesting, something a little bit more interesting with the cedar work.
So I want to just capture one of the words you said, and you used the word pork chop, and it's funny how, in the construction industry and architectural industry, we came up with all kinds of names of things on a house, and I have no idea where some of these terms came from. And, they're, 100+ years old for some of these terms, and they just kind of stuck, right? So a pork chop, what a funny world. Now that I'm saying that out loud, it's like, wow, where did they come up with that? But it is actually...
term and then pork chop.
Yeah. So what that means is how the soffit is on a house. So when we look at your house here, we actually don't have a level or horizontal soffit. As you can see, these come straight down, and the soffit, the underneath side of this roof, is actually angled. In a lot of houses, that is a horizontal area, and the corner right here is boxed out in a way that you can see it boxed out. Like this would be, let me show you a good example of that. Like this case right here, this is what a pork chop is. So it would be a barrel ceiling, fascia, and pork chop. Funny term, but it is true.
And the barrel, I love the barrel. Like that is like something I am just adamant about wanting.
Yeah.
Versus him not so much.
Yeah. Well,
I know, John, you mentioned you're always bringing this up. It seems to be like you're also 50% of marriage counseling. So,
you know, it's funny. Yeah. So I always say sometimes 30, sometimes 80% marital counselor. Depends on who I'm working with. But that is actually the favorite part of my job because, you know, as a designer, I've been designing for a long time, 30 something years. And, you know, when I was young in my career, I used to design for myself and what I liked. But you know, I was building a lot of new homes and designing homes. But as I matured in my role as a designer, one of the things I really embraced was working with clients and couples just like yourself that have a difference of opinion. And that's almost 100% of the time. You guys are right in the norm of everybody else where they have, you know, you're approaching it from a different point of view. And I think, and I'm no psychologist, so please, and I don't even play one on TV. So, you know, part of this process of designing a project like that is also kind of getting to know each other and find out what you guys gravitate towards. And often, well, almost 100% of the time, we find a middle ground that appeals to both of you. But sometimes it's really difficult to drive through the neighborhood and find a live example of that because, you know, when we're creating something like this, it is a little bit of an art. Right. And you know, with all the technology and all the savvy stuff we have, you know, the glitz and glam and technology and rendering and stuff like that, there's nothing really quite like taking it back a step and kind of bringing out our inner artist. And in this particular case, what we're looking for is something that doesn't exist. So it requires an artist touch. So
it's easier for Brad because he can see it because he's in it all day. He builds it, he can visualize it and know the outcome.
Yeah.
Versus me, I need to actually see it on the house. I need to see like the full effect of how it's going to look both ways. So
yeah,
that's where his ability comes in to help me, but I need to be more hands-on with seeing it at that time before it goes up.
You know what's really interesting too is that I mean, you say that he has the ability to visualize things, and most construction workers do, but it always amazes me on how many other construction workers hire us to do projects for them because they need that help with things. Actually, we're working with several construction managers that work for other big construction companies, but they hire us to do these residential projects because, you know, it requires a certain amount of creativity and agility to perform these jobs well. As you know, Brad, we do quite a bit of work for other people in the trades, and it's very flattering when they hire us because it says a lot when a fellow construction worker hires us.
Yeah, I know just being in front of like the initial, you know, incoming leads and speaking with over the phone, I know just recently we've had a couple of contractors calling about projects. So it is interesting to see how that works out and how the collaboration can come together, how two different worlds end up colliding and you know, they need help with their own projects.
So I really had a lot of fun. I was actually up for the last few nights. I was up working on your project, and I had a lot of fun with it actually. And you know, I started out, you know, kind of getting in the mode, and I always get into this little Zen mode when I'm working. So I'm not going to do a full blown design in front of you today because it probably, in all reality, I'm going to, true confessions, probably took me about 10 hours to do this, but I was really in the zone and I had a lot of fun with drawing this for you guys. So without further ado, I want to show you what I came up with. Yeah, and I was in the, somehow I ended up getting my head in the shot too. So I was just working away here.
Okay, you can tell you're very into it.
Yep.
Yes.
And this is in Chief Architect, John? Is that the program you're using?
This is by hand, actually.
Is it really?
Yeah, I drew this. I wanted to draw this because, we talk about being an artist, and it's so important to me to sometimes just connect with space when I'm drawing it. So, I learned 35 years ago I drew by hand, and, every so often I'm going to do that. So I use Photoshop, actually, to draw with.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the program was, so it's Photoshop. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I use a couple of different things, and I just draw on my tablet. I just hang out and put on my music and get in the zone and start drawing.
Odin thinks about all his fun facts in the background.
I think that's where he comes up with it. He's like, Dad, I'm so bored, please.
Gosh.
I like how you're bringing in some of the old school elements like hand drawing, but with new technology on the iPad like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I do, and I use texture maps and stuff like that, so it's way faster than when I was a kid, and in the 80s, I had to draw everything pencil and paper and use erasers. This really just speeds it up. I use texture mapping like right now. Then
Sure.
I used to use watercolor, like literally use watercolor to paint this. So
Wow. It's definitely an art, that's for sure.
yeah.
Holy cow.
Oh, there you go. Getting the colors in.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I really enjoy it when when I'm creating. It's just so much fun for me.
Get lost.
I do, yeah.
in-
No, it's a good time.
Oh my gosh.
It is a therapeutic to watch this, truly.
It is.
Yeah, so that was my idea, and I had,
That
like I
was your
said, it was
process.
super enjoyable to do that. But I was able to bring it into this here, and I pulled it in virtually, and we could talk about a couple of the elements I was thinking about. So in this here, as you can see, I kind of did a photo image overlay onto the front of your house. So I actually integrated the picture that you sent me, Brad, into this design right here. And we have a couple of cool things going on right here. And we're kind of bringing that old school, new school look together. I kind of feel like we need to do more in the whole front of the house here. And doing something like this right here, whether or not you change this, and I know this was in your intro video that you were thinking about changing this, and honestly, as a designer, I'm neutral on this, really. I think it has a certain amount of appeal to it. I know you guys are at odds, and if you want to, I'll be the tiebreaker for you eventually if you keep the shutters or don't, but that's not where I saw the most improvement needed. One thing when we stand back and look at this, we have on your existing house where we really kind of lose our visual is that your garage door and your front door don't match in color. And we don't have this element that carries through to the front of the house. So something that's going to be really important in this particular case is going to be tying the elements together and making sure that your front door and your garage door match and look good together, because you have a lot of dimension in your house. And with all the dimension you have, you need to connect those two elements because they're not connected right now. This looks like a separate element than the rest of your house.
True.
So
Yeah, I've never seen it before that way.
yeah. So by connecting these two elements, you're not drawing focus to one spot. It takes this as a whole and turns your front facade into a unified look. And we can do these brackets like you want, and we could change the color of it, but I do like the contrast of white and either blue or gray. And then these columns that we're considering right here, because we have that wainscoting or that half brick wall around here, to carry that through to the front and include that element in the columns themselves.
Hey, John,
So,
can you bring that on a bigger screen as well, too?
oh yeah, sure. Yeah, let's take a look at it here.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah, there we go.
Is that better? Yeah, okay, perfect.
That's
So
much better.
awesome.
I love those craftsman style columns too.
Yeah, so what we have here is we have, in my thoughts, and certainly we'll talk more about this, but we're bringing kind of two elements together, right? We're not going into the full-blown rustic elements like this right here, right? Because that would be hard to pull off in your area. But we're not going, far this way here and getting into that colonial look either that we were looking at before that somehow disappeared off my page. But we're kind of drawing a nice middle ground on that, and we're still able to get that barrel vaulted ceiling going in here with some beadboard. So the interior surface will still be beadboard, but these details like this we can work through. I just kind of use this because in your video you talked about a barrel vault, and doing something like this with the curve on it will allow you to do that. And tying it back over to the front of the garage here is critical, because when we look at it from the street, connecting these two elements right here
Right.
draws a totally different look to your house.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you nailed it with the garage door. Brad's been bugging me since we moved in for a garage door like that too.
Well, it's
But we
fitting.
always thought white.
Well, I wouldn't do white, because if we have the white trim, you have the white trim in other parts of the house and you want it to pop.
Right.
And that's where I'm neutral on the shutters, actually. If with this right here, we have this color door, and then the shutters that match those, it really does a nice job of balancing things. So I don't think the shutters are the problem. I mean, they actually look nice here, but a lot of times though, and here's what the crazy thing, about what I do is, you guys coming to me with something that you don't like about your house is actually probably the majority of the time that we're working on a project and I'm engaging with somebody at the design stage. That's going to be the case. They don't like something, they try to self-diagnose, they try to figure out what they don't like about it. And sometimes, and even me, I've been doing this a while. I need to sit and, I'll sit and just kind of zone out, put my music on. And I probably approached your project 2 or 3 different times. And then finally something clicked. The artist in me, I just connected with the space. And this is, the result of it.
I never thought to take the brick around. I think both of us, we've kind of been at odds with that, because right now we currently have brick on the house and then brick on the front step. I liked the brick. Brad didn't like that it was 2 different kinds of bricks, but they went well together. So seeing it pulled around to the garage, love it. Just took the house to a whole new level.
Good.
Like blown away.
Yay. Yeah, I know when John showed it to me, I got a little sneak peek of it. I like that it's kind of a little bit of what you both were looking at, as far as being traditional and modern. I think, John, you did a good job of
Thank you.
combining the two and making it kind of at a middle ground there as well.
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad that this worked out. Obviously there's a lot of detailed discussions that we can have offline. This project was immensely enjoyable for me, and I connected with some of the the creative mojo that I love about my job and my profession. It's really cool to go old school and tie it back. I think Sarah, I'm gonna do that more often. I love that kind of connection I have with when I'm working for you as a client. I live for that connection I have with people.
Yeah, it's taking your passion for multiple things and
Yeah.
kind of channeling it through one source. So I
Yeah.
think that it's also really cool to watch. I enjoy watching it. So
Thank you. Hey, I know we have a couple of big announcements for the next couple of weeks. Sarah, what do we got coming up?
yeah, well, I don't know if I should fully give it away. Are we ready to fully give it away, or is it just an announcement for now?
Um, I don't know. I'm ready. I'm pretty confident that I'm going to be able to pull this off. Doing one of the most ambitious things I've ever done in my career, and
Yes.
I'm building a basically a virtual showroom that is unlimited in square footage. But I'm starting out with a 60,000 square foot footprint of a virtual showroom that will probably be the first of its kind anywhere.
Yeah.
I haven't
Yeah.
heard of anybody doing it yet, so I'm pretty excited about it. And we're designing it in a fractal. So what does that mean, Sarah?
Fractal means it can be indefinitely built upon itself. So it's a geometrical shape that would replicate itself indefinitely. And that way, the showroom, in a sense, then is indefinite or infinite, because it can continue to build upon itself. And right now, I'm not sure what the exact geometric shape of it is, or if it's a specific like hexagon, or what can't remember what shape you ended up going off of, but
Mm-hmm. That's a
it's
mystery. It's a
really
surprise for you.
what was that?
I'm going to surprise you.
Okay, I'm really into this because I find it extremely interesting, and combining the fact of offering more virtual ways to develop a project, or at least to see different projects. It's very cool because all of our design concepts for past projects, future, or just general concepts will be located in one spot for everyone to see, from kitchens, bathrooms, basements, additions, pretty much everything. So I was pretty blown away by seeing it, and so I'm really excited to share it with everyone as well. John's been working hard on it, and it's definitely very impressive.
Well, thanks, Sarah. And just so everybody knows too, is that this everything we're doing right now is actually not a response to COVID. We've been actually working on this for a long time now, and we've been planning this for a long time. We accelerated our show a little bit, by a few weeks, due to the COVID, but it was just perfect timing, and it's been something I've had a passion for a long time. And so if you like our show and you're having a good time, please share this. It's meant to be a form of entertainment, inspiration, and fun for everybody. And if you are watching the show and you have a project that you want to bring on the air and have a lot of fun with, we are looking for people to volunteer for us to work with you. And it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We're not necessarily trying to get projects out of this. We're just trying to share cool things. And so if you have something and you want to call us, Sarah, will you link the information for them to
Yeah.
to subscribe and like our
Yeah.
page, and then also go to YouTube and be on there as well?
Yeah, absolutely. You can reach out to us via Facebook right here. You can email us at contact@synergyremodel.com. There's a lot of ways you can get in contact with us. So definitely I can post that in the comments, and also that'll be posted to our page as well. So we do this every Friday at 2 p.m. And like John mentioned, you don't have to be a client. You don't have to be necessarily looking to complete the project. We just want to do this for fun and help out anyone who wants to visualize a new space in their home.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I truly did have a good time with this project, and kind of helped me connect with the way I used to do things, and I'm going to continue to do more of it because it was just so enjoyable.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You gave us a lot to think about and really unified our ideas. So greatly appreciated.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Thanks for
Yeah. Thanks,
coming
guys.
today.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
We'll see you next Friday at 2.
Bye.
Bye,
See ya.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.